If you found out that one day your bank account could be frozen, limited, or suddenly changed without your permission, what would you do differently starting today? That's not a strange question. It's not fear talk, and it's not a theory. It is something that has already happened many times in history, and the same warning signs are showing up again right now. Most people don't like to think about this. They assume money in the bank is always safe. They assume the system will work tomorrow the same way it worked yesterday. But history shows us something very different. And before we go any further, let me tell you something important. This video is not about panic, it's not about predictions, and it's not about selling you fear. It's about understanding how money systems actually work so you can make calm, smart decisions instead of being surprised later. Because throughout history, there have always been two types of people during major money changes. The first group saw the signs early. They understood what was happening, and they positioned themselves quietly long before problems became obvious. The second group trusted the system completely. They assumed things would work out, and when the rules changed, they had no time to react. The difference between these two groups was not intelligence. It was not education, and it was not wealth. It was knowledge. And today, I want to share that knowledge with you. Right now, we are standing at a very important moment in economic history. Governments all over the world are carrying massive amounts of debt. So much debt that even well-known economists are openly saying it cannot be paid back in the normal way. This is not coming from internet rumors. This is not coming from social media. Former central bank leaders, Nobel Prize-winning economists, and major financial institutions have all said the same thing in different ways. The math does not work. Let me explain this in very simple terms. Think about a normal family. A family earns money. They pay bills, they buy food, and if possible, they save a little. But what happens if that family keeps spending more than they earn month after month, year after year? They borrow, they use credit cards, they take loans, the debt grows. At first, it feels manageable, but over time, the interest gets bigger. Soon, they're borrowing money just to pay interest on old debt. At that point, everyone understands something is wrong. That situation cannot last forever. Now take that exact problem and scale it up to governments. Most developed governments borrow by issuing bonds, which are basically promises to pay money back later with interest. Here's the part most people don't realize. Governments almost never pay off this debt. When old bonds come due, they don't pay them off with savings. They issue new bonds to pay off the old ones. It's like paying one credit card with another credit card. The debt never goes away. It only grows, and today, that debt has reached extreme levels. In many countries, government debt is now larger than the entire economy. Some countries owe 1.5 times what they produce in a year. Some are even close to double. If your household debt was twice your yearly income, you would be in serious trouble. The rules are the same for governments. There are just more zeros. So why hasn't this been fixed? The answer is simple. Politics. No politician wants to cut spending. No politician wants to raise taxes. Doing either one risks losing the next election. So instead, the problem gets pushed forward. To the next year, to the next leader, to the next generation. This works until it doesn't, because history shows us something very clear. There always comes a moment when lenders lose confidence, when borrowing becomes too expensive, when the system can no longer support the weight of the debt. And when that moment arrives, governments are forced to change the rules. That's when currency resets happen. Before we continue, I want to be very clear. This video is for education only. It is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to buy or sell. What I'm sharing is based on history and basic economic principles. No one can know exactly when change will happen or what form it will take, but understanding the pattern matters. Because in the next part, I am going to explain what actually happens when a currency system breaks and why most people don't see it coming until it is too late. Now that you understand why these problems build up, let's talk about what actually happens when the system reaches its breaking point. This part is important because most people imagine the wrong thing. They imagine total chaos. They imagine banks collapsing overnight. They imagine a sudden apocalypse, but in reality, currency resets are usually much quieter and much more controlled. And that's what makes them dangerous. When governments reach a point where debt can no longer be managed, they have a few choices. Cut spending, raise taxes, or change the currency system itself. History shows that changing the currency is often the path they choose, This is not rare. Germany did it in the 1920s, Argentina has done it several times, Brazil did it, Russia did it. Zimbabwe did it. Even strong, modern nations have replaced their currencies when the old system no longer worked. Here's how it usually happens. One day, the government announces a new currency. Sometimes with little warning, sometimes over a weekend. They tell people that old money will be exchanged for new money. But there's always a catch, there is a limit. Maybe you can exchange 10,000, maybe 20,000, maybe 50,000. Anything above that limit is restricted, delayed, or not exchanged at all. Why? Because governments want control. They want to stop large amounts of money from moving too fast. They want to prevent people from protecting themselves at the last minute. They want to protect the new system from collapse before it even begins. This is where many people get trapped. If you have less money than the exchange limit, life continues mostly as normal. Your paycheck switches to the new currency. Your bills switch to the new currency. You go to work, you buy food. But if you have more than the limit, things change quickly. Money above the limit becomes hard to use. It might only be spendable with special permission. Or it might trade unofficially at a discount. At first, maybe 70 cents on the dollar. Then 30 cents, then almost nothing. Over time, people realize something painful. The old money is no longer real money. It still looks the same, but it no longer has power. Now here's the part most people don't think about. Even if you believe you don't own government debt, you probably do. Your retirement account likely holds government bonds. Your pension plan almost certainly does. Insurance companies hold them, banks hold them. So when bonds lose value in a reset, it's not just wealthy investors who are affected. It's everyday people, people with savings accounts, people with retirement plans, people who did everything right, and this leads to a hard truth. In a currency reset, it's not about how hard you worked, it's about what kind of assets you held when the rules changed. This brings us to a critical question: what actually survives a currency reset? History gives us a very clear answer. Assets with intrinsic value, things that exist in the real world. Things that do not depend on promises, things that do not rely on trust in a system, land, businesses, tools, equipment, commodities, and one asset that appears again and again throughout history: silver. Before we talk about why silver matters so much, I want you to pause for a moment. Think about this. If money is just a system and systems can change, then real protection comes from owning things. That idea alone separates people who survive currency changes from people who don't. And in the next part I am going to explain why silver has played this role for thousands of years, why it still matters today, and how ordinary people, not just the wealthy, have used it to protect themselves during times of monetary change. Now let's talk about why silver matters, and why it has survived every major currency change in history. Silver is not new, it's not trendy, and it's not based on hype. For thousands of years, across nearly every civilization, silver has been used as money or a store of value. Not because people agreed to pretend it had value, but because of what it is. Silver has a few simple qualities that make it different from paper money. First, silver is scarce. It can't be printed. It can't be created by a computer. It has to be mined from the earth. Second, silver lasts. It doesn't rot. It doesn't decay. A silver coin made hundreds of years ago is still silver today. Third, silver can be divided. It can be melted, cut, or formed into smaller pieces. That makes it practical. And fourth, silver is easy to recognize. People can test it. They know what it is. But what makes silver especially important today is something modern: industry. Silver is used in electronics. It's used in solar panels. It's used in medical equipment. It's used in batteries and technology. Even if no one wanted silver as money tomorrow, industries would still need it. That puts a natural floor under its value. This is very different from paper money, which only has value because a system says it does. Now let's bring this back to real life. Right now, silver is priced in a way that makes it accessible to regular people. You don't need to be wealthy to own it. You can buy a small amount, 1 ounce at a time. Slowly, over months or years. This matters because silver works best as insurance, not speculation. It's not about getting rich fast. It's about staying protected if the rules change. Think about this example. Imagine you have savings in a bank. A currency reset happens. The government allows a limited exchange. Money above that limit loses value or access. Now imagine that part of your savings was quietly converted into silver over time. That silver doesn't care what currency is in use. It doesn't care what government is in power. It's still silver. You can sell it, you can trade it, or you can simply hold it while systems adjust. This is why people who held silver during past currency crises were able to maintain purchasing power while others couldn't. Silver doesn't rise because currencies get stronger. Currencies weaken and silver stays the same. That's an important difference. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Silver is not perfect. It doesn't pay interest. Its price moves up and down, and it's not as liquid as cash in a bank.